What's going on, guys? Welcome back to United View. Burnley won, Manchester United won. More points dropped, unfortunately, in this race for top four. I think I pretty much messaged all of you guys, by the way, before the game and sort of said, let's forget about Middlesbrough. Let's forget about Middlesbrough. Let's forget about the negativity. We'll move on. And yet again, another disappointing result here. Got a full panel this evening, which is always good. Some good conversation I think we're going to get into. Joined by Marcel, James, Cam, and DJ. So we'll start off firstly with you, Marcel. Try and sum up that game.
Absolutely, Paul. We're not a team. We're honestly not a team. We are in that final third as well. It's just so poor. Like there's not even one good cross in that game. I think Ronaldo has two key chances, but it's like they're just so much more combative and wanted it more in that second half. The first half we played well, Owen. I think we played well in the first half, but that second half is just we crumbled once we conceded the goal, and we just did not look like the same Man United. It's so frustrating, man, because we need to win these games. Well, this whole month is so vital for us in the Premier League. We have to win every single game. And against Burnley, when we played all right, it was a bit similar in the game at OT, in the sense that, we kind of got away with it and stretched away from them towards the end. But today, I don't know, man. Owen is just so upsetting, man. They just look lost. The team just looks lost. It's like they tail off in that second half. It's gone back to the old United with, we start well in the first half and everything looks nice, and then we just fade away. It's just annoying, man.
James, it was interesting to see everyone join the room before we went live, because pretty much everyone, when they came in, did the exact same reaction. Everyone came in and either swore or just went and that's the feeling coming out of this game. I mean, what's your initial reaction to that? How do you sum that one up?
That's been the feeling all season, Owen, though, hasn't it, really? Like, every time we feel like a little positive, it's followed by deflation quite soon after. It was just like, if you'd have asked me that question an hour ago, I'd probably give you a different answer. Like, I was really positive after half-time. I was speaking to a couple of mates. We played good football. It looked like McTominay could play on his own in the six. We were controlling the game. We had chance after chance. And then the second half came out, and I was like, right, we are playing against bottom of the league, right? Because they're out fighting us in every single area on the pitch. And it's like, we're Manchester United and Burnley want it more than us. And that's an issue, mate. And like you said, everyone's reaction was the same. And we're just like, we're all disappointed, but we all don't have an explanation for it. I definitely don't. Like, if any of you guys do, then feel free to let me know. But I'm dumbfounded, like how Burnley can outfight us in every area.
Cam, can you explain that one? I mean, we were talking about this before we went live. First half, we actually played okay. It was kind of like a continuation of the Middlesbrough game, in the fact that you do look at it on the face of it and say, well, at points, we made chances, should have scored more than the one goal that we scored. But second half, we were so far off it. How do you interpret that? Why the massive drop off? Is it tactics? Is it mentality? Or is it all of the above?
I think it's a bit of everything, but I think what's important to look at is, just for a second, tonight and against Middlesbrough, we had a lot of chances, should have won both games easily. And you can see that we're building towards the way Ralph Rangnick wants us to play. You can see there's something there that we're sort of going back to. The first half today was almost, apart from not putting a few more in the back of the net, was almost basically the perfect half of football. They almost didn't have a shot. Every time that we had an attack that broke down the edge of the box, we won it back within 5-6 seconds, got the pressure straight back on immediately. So I think there's a lot of positives. I mean, if you take it six months ago under Ole, even a year ago, those games where we played maybe lower league opposition in the FA Cup or League Cup, we would scrape through, but not because we played well, not because we dominated them, because we got some lucky moments and possibly got an individual's come up with something brilliant and scored a goal. You can see now we're building a team. There's a process there. And I think it's a massive positive to take. And yeah, it's frustrating that the results aren't going our way. But if you create this many chances consistently, you're going to score more goals than we did before. If you defend like we did in the first half, which we have done recently a little bit more, then you're going to concede fewer goals. And we've conceded fewer goals since Rangnick came in. So I think there's definitely positives. But I think for me, second half, I think the mentality started it all off. I think as soon as Burnley started having a go, all of a sudden Maguire and Varane had to drop off. And then all of a sudden there's a big space in front of them for McTominay to cover. All of a sudden Luke Shaw has McNeil cutting inside him every time. Doesn't know what to do about that. Does he pass him on? Does he let him go? Does he stay with him? And all of a sudden there's massive spaces everywhere. So I think it was just Burnley came out after half-time, attacked us, and we didn't know what to do. Everyone started dropping off. Maguire suddenly left defending huge spaces, gets himself booked, and from then on, it's pretty much a catastrophe. But I think there's definitely positives to look at the very least.
A couple of super chats here. First from Ray Diaz says, last month of Ollie, no chances, getting chances now, but issues finding the net. How good was Leicester's YouTube highlight reel of Maguire? They got 80 million. We'll get into that, Ray. Honestly, we'll get into the Maguire conundrum. Wayne List says, if Rashford donated £1 to charity each time he blindly runs into a group of players and gives the ball away, he would actually end world poverty. DJ, that's actually quite a nice segue into that one, because how would you sum up Marcus Rashford's performance tonight? Because when you came in, you were not particularly happy with Marcus.
Yeah, so just shout out everybody that's watching this evening. I'm gonna give a disclaimer. I may be very reactionary right now. I'm in my feelings, I'm emotional, but I'm letting it out. Marcus Rashford, for me, he needs to eat bench for a long time. Like, seriously, like, he plays like a child, and he plays like he's just on the playground playing for himself. I'm just tired of it, to be fair. I'm a big fan of Marcus Rashford. I think there is a footballer there. I just think he just doesn't use this enough. He literally just doesn't use this enough. And I'm not just singling him out. There's a few other players that didn't play well. But, you know, at this level, Marcus Rashford, you know, I think maybe a year and a half ago, we was talking him up there with Mbappe. We was doing it. I believe the hype. We was all doing it. And now it's just levels to this. Just levels to this. And this game today just proved that, you know, I agree with Cam on a lot of his points in terms of I do see some positive, 100%, I do. And I see now the team, they're doing things as a team. It's not just individual players trying to come up with something. I just think that, I honestly just think that the time of winning trophies with us right now is just not going to be any time soon. I think we all know that. And, you know, this game really highlighted the difference in class between us and say the two top teams. And I hate to say the two top teams because we should be one of those two top teams. But Liverpool, Man City, even Chelsea to an extent, like even if they come up against, you know, sides that are kind of minnows and they're struggling a little bit, they still find a way to pull through. And yeah, we had VAR decisions today, but I just think this United team's soft. You know, there needed to be someone out on the pitch that literally drove this team forward today and said, listen, we need to win at all costs. And the intensity dipped. We wasn't winning the first or second balls. And just to finish off really quick, I actually applaud Burnley because in the first half, they were getting no luck with that long field ball. Varane and Maguire handled it well. McTominay was handling it well. And then what they do, they adapted their play. So what they did was, I don't even know how you pronounce his name, the Giant, their giant striker. He would then drop even, he would even drop deeper. So he wasn't even like pressing into Varane and Maguire because he was getting no luck out of it. And they adapted and we just couldn't readapt to them. So just thoroughly disappointed this evening, man.
A couple more super chats. First one, Ronaldo says, I'm the problem for United. Summer kick me out. I always, and he's back again. Can we talk about Ronaldo's form? Really wants to talk about his own form, I guess. Dylan says, a tale of two halves as per usual. Snorlax FC, second to the ball, couldn't string 4 to 5 passes. Rashford again poor. He needs to be benched. So echoing what you were saying there, DJ. Marcel, before we get into some of the nitty-gritty of the game, maybe these VAR decisions, etc., just overall, how big of a blow is that top 4-wise this season? Obviously, we're still in the race, but bottom of the league, you're expecting Manchester United to win. They drop points. How big of a missed opportunity is that for us?
It's massive. It's absolutely massive. I feel like we, in some ways, are a better counter-attacking team. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe next month we get a few results, but the teams around us are going to be picking up points. And against these kind of teams, bottom teams in the league, they're going to be kicking them 4 and 5s. Do you get it? They're going to be easy brushing away these kind of teams. This is a massive result that we needed to get 3 points here. And the fact that we haven't been able to manage that, Owen, it's just ridiculous. Nobody looks like they want to play amongst each other and pass the ball quickly. Nobody looks like they're part of a team, even for me. Again, Cavani played poorly, and I was talking a lot on Twitter, hoping that he would produce something today. And, you know, we take off a 34-year-old striker for a 37-year-old striker. Honestly, it's just so upsetting. It's just so upsetting. And this is a massive, massive, massive drop of 2 points.
James, let's get into some of the OPFC, exactly. Let's get into some of the refereeing decisions, because we had a bit of an interesting chat before the show started where you've got a bit of a different perspective when it comes to not necessarily using it as an excuse, but kind of just maybe being a big sort of focused talking point. Obviously, we had 2 disallowed goals in the game. The first one is Varane's header was ruled out for an offside in the end when it comes to Harry Maguire. Second one was an own goal that was ruled out because of a apparent foul by Paul Pogba into the box. What did you make of those decisions? And what do you make of sort of, I guess, just the standard of refereeing in general in the Premier League? And should we be using that as an excuse, or is that too easy?
So I'll get onto the actual decisions in a minute, but I'm probably different to a fair few of you guys, where I'm just like, I just look at a game and I'm like, we're Manchester United, we play Burnley, they're 20th in the league. Like, we should have enough over 90 minutes to beat them, regardless of decisions like that. Absolutely, regardless of decisions. So I hate using it as an excuse. I really do. Looking at the individual decisions, you look at the first one, I think Maguire probably does have to be given offside. I think once they slow it down and they realise that he is interfering with play because the defender has to be there because Maguire is, then I don't think it's a foul. I don't think the block is necessarily a foul. That happens all the time and never gets given. But the offside needs to get given, and therefore it's probably rightfully chalked off. The Pogba one, I think, is very soft. Very, very soft. I think anywhere else on the pitch, that doesn't really get given. And I think if you equate it and you look back to, the handball at Middlesbrough, and you think that didn't get, like, that goal got given. And I'm like, well, you would fancy yourselves to get one out of those two decisions in theory. Like, to not get both of them sucks a bit. But again, we were playing a championship team and we were playing 20th in the Premier League. So if I'm coming out of it as Manchester United blaming referees' decisions for not getting results, then how far have my standards fallen? Because we've got Ronaldo up front, we've got Rafael Varane, we've got Jadon Sancho, we've got Bruno Fernandes, we've got Paul Pogba, and we're looking at refereeing decisions. I'm not having it. Like, you guys may disagree, but I'm not having refereeing decisions being the reason that we didn't win that game. Not at all.
I think it's an interesting one, because I'm with you in the fact that it's not an excuse, and I don't think it's a case of we dominated for 90 minutes and it was just because of those two decisions that we lost. We drew, rather. It feels like a loss. Ultimately, we dropped points because over 90 minutes we weren't good enough. Second half, we were awful. We were really, really poor. My biggest gripe with it isn't necessarily from a Manchester United perspective. It's more just from, I guess, a football perspective, a sort of consistency perspective, in the sense that just, for a fact, like, I'm with you with the first one. I can see why they've given that, because they look at Maguire, they go, well, he's offside. I mean, you could make a debate about how much he's really interfering with play. Like you said, I don't think it's a foul or anything like that, but you can go, okay, I can kind of get that one. The second one, so soft. And the biggest frustration for me is, for a fact, like, even in the same game or in a game tomorrow, next week or whatever, you'll see that it'll be given goal, no problem. And it's that inconsistency that we keep seeing over and over and over again. And I understand that football, especially with the rules, it's subjective. If you get too clinical, that's where football gets boring and all that kind of stuff. But it's just the inconsistency. I think there needs to be a massive discussion about the quality of officiating in the Premier League. It's poor. It's really poor. Every single week we see questionable decisions. And some people try to justify it as, yeah, but it's good. It's a good talking point, isn't it? Or it brings drama to the game. What? Incompetence. You're happy with incompetence. It goes to when we get to major tournaments now, European Championships or World Cup, we don't even have an English referee go, because we're shit. We're shit at refereeing. Like, it's beyond poor. And again, that's my biggest problem with it. I would be fine with it if, like, for instance, the Pogba one, if every single time you saw that get chalked off, I'd be fine with a handball against Middlesbrough. If every single time you saw that, they'd go, okay, handball, disallow the goal. But it's when it's just inconsistent. And that's the biggest frustration for me. But I'm with you to the point of, like, that ultimately wasn't the reason we dropped points in the game. We dropped points because second half we were rubbish. And if you're going to judge it in two halves, we were better in first half, they were better second half. That's a draw in the middle. That's how it works. Cam, what did you make of the decisions, and what do you make of, I guess, the standard of officiating in the Premier League?
It's not just the Premier League. I think right the way down, English football, there's a big problem with the officiating. It's horrendous at pretty much every level. But I think, to be fair, I think that first decision was spot on, because we got one pretty similar. I think a few weeks back, Cavani got impeded by, I think, maybe Tyrone Mings, who was offside. So I think it's a good, and to be honest, I think it's good that they're given that. If they're consistent now and they give that in every game, it's good, because it means you're not getting players who are standing offside with the only reason of interfering with play by blocking people. It means your set pieces are now actually about who's better in the air, or a better jumper, or who times their run better. So if they're consistent with it, I think that's a good thing. So I don't really have a problem with it. But the problem is that they're not consistent. And you see in so many games, those don't get spotted, they don't get noticed, and teams get away with it. But if they can apply that consistently, I think it's a good one to actually get into and to start bringing up. But that second one, there's no way that's a foul anywhere else on the pitch. And I don't, even in the box, it's not a foul. I've no idea what the assistant's seen there. And it looked like, I'm not sure they even reviewed it properly. It seemed to take about 10 seconds where the assistant put his flag up and play was restarted again. I don't understand what was going on there at all. That was just, honestly, for me, that was horrendous. But yeah, no, I'm still with James, though, that if you're relying on refereeing decisions like that, yeah, it's 2 disallowed goals, but still, should have more in the tank to beat Burnley over 90 minutes.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. To round up the VAR discussion, DJ, does VAR... Are we getting to a point where it's working? Because it feels like it's sort of 2 steps forward, 1 step back when it comes to VAR, especially when you come to decisions where even after they have the technology, you go, still don't see what you've seen there, etc. What do you make of it?
Yeah, VAR is a bit sketchy. Sometimes 60,000 in a stadium can have the right answer, and the referee still have the wrong answer, but using VAR. So it's a little bit sketchy for me. I think it's good in some spots, and it's just terrible in others. So I think there needs to be sort of I definitely think there's going to be some form of review after this season, because there's been a few weird decisions this season with VAR. And again, kind of just echoing what the boys are saying, if that's City and they have 2 goals disallowed, do you know what they're going to do? They're going to go and try and score more. That's what they're going to do. So, and we didn't really try and do that as much. So, yeah, VAR on one hand, dealt us a little bit of a blow again, but it's not an excuse.
A couple of super chats to get to. JK says, Bottle Job FC back again. It's one of those ones, isn't it? Ronaldo says, imagine we kept Lukaku instead of wasting money on me. This is the weird thing with the Ronaldo account. So it goes in and out of character a couple of times. So it weaves in and out. But I appreciate the dedication to the Ronaldo character. Ray Diaz says, come on, Owen, let's talk about Maguire out of position. We're going to get to Maguire, Ray Diaz. Actually, let's get to him now. Marcel, Harry Maguire. Try and sum up that performance.
Just another one of his shocking performances this season. He has had the worst season I have ever seen from a Man United player. Every single game, Owen, this guy manages to make a key mistake, that somehow starts the massive capitulation of our game within the 90 minutes. It is rubbish. It's just rubbish. He cannot control his body. He can't control his body. He puts his body in and commits into areas that are clear fouls. Can't mark players properly. Doesn't have the pace to cover spaces. Headers in no direction. It's weird. It's just so bad consistently. And we still want to give this man the captaincy somehow. I don't know what's going on. I don't know who's brave enough to take him off this captaincy, but somebody needs to do it, because it just looks bad week after week after week. I don't know what's going on.
James, I was saying before we went live that I think you'll struggle to find a defender to have like a worse sort of opening 15 minutes in the second half than Harry Maguire. Like legitimately, he obviously was at fault for the goal along with Scott McTominay, but he's at fault for the goal. And then I'm not sure what he's doing as he's coming back into the box. Could have been sent off. I mean, that was borderline with the ball when it went over the top, but gets involved as well. You're up against a 6'6" striker, who he's 6'6". He's a giant man. So what do? Wrestle him. Because obviously you're going to win that. You're going to win that all the time. If anything, I appreciate the sort of the desire from himself seeing a giant man and going, yeah, I've got that. I've got the same sort of strength as him. No, you don't. You don't have the same strength as him. How do you solve this Maguire issue? Because is he undroppable because he's the captain? Is that the problem? And the price tag?
Yeah, well, it's politics, isn't it? I think if we equate it to the whole United View Royal Rumble thing, it's like Cam just flinging himself at KG. I'll just chuck him over the top rope. No problem.
Exactly.
I'll just pick him up and just chuck him, right? I think that's the equivalent. You're going and you're attacking this giant and just thinking that, yeah, I can, in a physical battle, I'll beat him all day. On the captaincy, it definitely comes down to club politics. We can have discussions about, who's really in charge and all that kind of thing. But if you spend £80 million on a player, that player is given the captaincy. You then bring in a manager who you label as an interim manager because you're only sure that they're going to be there 6 months. They may be there longer, but at the end of the day, their title is there for 6 months. Do they really have the power and the influence to change the captaincy long term? Probably not. And considering that Ralph has been ruthless in many other areas, you would assume that if he had that power, he would probably have used it already. You will struggle to find a worse 15 minutes, I think. It's strange because in the first half, I actually thought, oh, he looks relatively composed. He looks okay. Him and Varane are dealing with it fine. He's actually, instead of going Maguire to Varane to Dalot, it's actually going Maguire to Dalot when he was switching the play okay. And that tempo was a little bit better. And I was like, okay, we might be onto a performance. Whistle goes, half time, fine, happy. On the phone to my mates, all happy. Second half, what the is going on? Honestly, awful. Absolutely awful. And we paid £80 million for him. Chelsea got Thiago Silva on a free. PSG got Sergio Ramos on a free. And we paid £80 million for a defender from Leicester who was proven in a small team in a back three. And we bring him to Manchester United and play him in a back four. And he's not good enough, mate. That's the bottom line. Not good enough.
I think that's the frustrating thing, Cam. I mean, even from a tactical perspective, why does he just have all of these problems all the time? Is it that he can't handle our style of play? Is it that he's just not a good enough footballer? Is it that he lacks confidence? Like, what is it? Because we were talking before, like, you sort of, whenever you do shows like this, you want to make sure that you're not singling people out and feel like you've got an agenda against certain players and you're constantly just hammering home a point on a player. But it's constant with him. It is every game, and it is a discussion point every game that he either makes mistakes or he causes problems at the back. Like, again, is it a tactical problem or is he just ultimately not good enough?
I think it's a bit of everything. You can see his confidence has dipped because if you watch Lindelof or Varane when they play on the left side, obviously being right-footed, both of them, if that ball comes across from whatever centre-back's playing on the right, they'll control that with their left, turn out, straight away out to the left back. At the moment, every time Harry Maguire takes that ball, he takes it on his right foot, turns back inside, which means he's then got to take 5 seconds longer to turn himself around and get it out to the left back. Or he goes back to the right side, which is exactly where it's come from. So you can see from that his confidence is dented because he's not doing what realistically any £80 million footballer should be able to control the ball on both feet. That shouldn't be a problem at all. But then tactically as well, if you look at what he's being asked to do now, he's not well set up for it. I mean, I think we knew right from his time at Leicester, the one thing he lacked was pace. If you ask him to defend big spaces, he's going to struggle. And all of a sudden, he's not just defending a big space behind him now, he's defending a big space in front of him. Because if the Burnley strikers or if someone in midfield for Burnley gets on the end of a long ball, a chip out of their defence, Maguire's got to go forward, try and confront them, to try and help the pressure. If everyone else in the team's pressing, he's got to go with them. But the problem is, he, one, reacts slowly because his confidence isn't good, and two, by the time he gets there, because he's so slow, it's half a second late, he's made a foul. The ball's gone. He's got himself booked, and it's happening consistently. What I will say to disagree slightly with the politics issue, I'm not sure it's politics, to be fair, because he was dropped for a while. I think it might just be because we haven't got any other centre-backs available. I mean, Phil Jones possibly is in the squad, but I think Lindelof might still be out, and Bailly's maybe not back.
Lindelof was on the bench today. I think Lindelof didn't train all last week because of illness, they said as well.
Okay, so in which case it might just be at this point that there's no other centre backs available, which is why Maguire's still playing. Because in fairness to Yannick, he said when he's on the pitch he's captain, and then immediately afterwards dropped him, didn't he? So I'm hoping it is just a case of no one else being available.
Yeah, there was a moment there that it looked like Maguire would struggle to get back into the side because he was injured, and then we played well in a couple of games, got a few victories, and it was only because obviously the incident that happened with Lindelof's family. And Radiohouse says, I work security at Lindelof's home to bench Mags. Bit much. Bit much, that one, right? Yeah, and it was only because of that, because Ralph doesn't really like to change his side that much. If you're winning, and it doesn't matter who you are, he'll keep you on the bench. I think that in the past, it might have been maybe a political thing. You know, you get a bit of pressure from above, but I think those above have probably come to the same conclusion the fans have, that a lot of these players are crap. Like, and especially when it comes to Ralph, I don't think they're telling Ralph what to do. Like when it comes to like certain players and stuff like that, you know, I just can't imagine Ralph being the guy from above that go, you know, you've got to play Harry Maguire. Be like, no, I'm not going to play Harry Maguire. He doesn't get what he wants anyway, right? When it comes to players being in the squad. So, I mean, DJ, how do you resolve the Maguire issue? Is it just simply by dropping him, putting Varane and Lindelof as your two centre backs?
Do you know what? I actually, I remember when there was a time when Phil Jones used to make a mistake nearly every game, and we slaughtered that man, and that man got kicked out of the team. Obviously, he did have injuries, but we didn't see him for a long time. I feel with Maguire, it's got to the point now where something does need to be done. We can't continue like this, and I think the best thing for him, for his Manchester United career, is if the permanent manager does come in and actually does take the captaincy off him and just make him one of the many guys that are in the team. Because if we can't sell him on, I think maybe the only other teams that would probably come in for him and maybe one of the La Liga teams, maybe one of the smaller Italian teams, or maybe Newcastle if they were desperate for a defender, right? I do honestly believe something needs to be done. He doesn't need to be benched. He needs to be benched. I said it the other day. I did say Lindelof and Varane is my preferred two. They're just a bit more competent on the ball. Lindelof's had sort of issues by getting bullied, and I think we've all kind of taken that a bit too far because it hasn't happened in any recent time at the moment. So, Maguire needs to sit and eat bench. In terms of the captaincy, I guess we'll wait for the permanent manager to make that decision.
Yeah, I think that it's just, like I said, it's every game. It is every game, and there's a point in every game which you go, oh, here we go, and he does. And even like you said, like James said, in the first half, you go, actually, he's doing okay, and then you have to kind of realize that's because that nothing happened really worth defending in the first half. That's why, because the reason he played all right is because he had nothing to do, and once he does have something to do, and then he starts getting involved, and then it's almost like if he makes one mistake, he starts chasing it as well. I've got to do something to make up for that mistake, and then he starts making even more mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, that discrepancy between the first half and the second half, Marcel, like, can you explain that drop-off? Is it a case of maybe, look, we played 120 minutes on Friday, maybe that's a reason for energy levels to drop off? Or is it just a case of, it's this mentality issue once again of, well, Man United will walk all over in the bottom of the league, and it doesn't work like that?
I think it's confidence. It definitely is confidence. Once we concede that goal, heads start to drop. There's no characters trying to rally the troops. Nobody's saying, listen, we need to win this football match at all costs. Nobody wants to produce something of quality, especially in that final third. Every single time the ball arrives in the final third, poor crosses. Delo had a moment to put in a good cross into Ronaldo at the back post. And I was just begging, please, with some quality, please. And it was poor. Shaw had about a few of them as well, over all the way into the back post in crucial moments, Owen, where we just need somebody to find someone. Even when Elanga does put in the good cross into Ronaldo, Ronaldo's headers are off point. It's just nobody can just grab the game by the scruff of the neck in our team. It's happened just the other day against Middlesbrough. Chance after chance after chance. It's just they're void of confidence for sure. But the manager needs to work with these players, and they need to look like a team. They need to know who they're creating the chances for and who they're playing the ball to. What are we working for this space? Are we working for that space? There's no organization in the team, or well enough. These look like a load of individuals that are just here to play together and are all on spectacular wages. Nobody's won anything and they're on spectacular wages. Yeah. It's just, it's ridiculous. Honestly, it annoys me, Owen, because there's other teams in the league. Pep's got no recognized striker. He has no recognized striker, and players know how to play the ball, find areas, and they have a clear idea of what they're trying to attempt to do. In the second half, once we concede the goal, nobody knows what they want to do. Bruno's playing back in the left defensive mid, or the left backs, trying to bring the ball out when he can just trust his two midfielders to do that job and stay high. It's annoying, and it's definitely confidence and characters. We need more presence in the team.
Do you know what I think? Sorry to cut you, Marcel. Do you know what I think? Yeah. Do you know what I see with this United team? We all play good, right? So the match starts and we'll play good, and there's all sort of like a decent, good vibe, and we'll play some good stuff. And I think what happens is we'll keep like blowing, trying to get the goal. And it's like we just max ourselves out. We literally just max ourselves out. Yeah, we had 2 goals disallowed. We scored 1. We've emptied the tank now. That's it. We've got nothing left. It literally happens all the time. We just always fizzle out in this game.
And they roll over. And they just, whatever happens now will happen. And
they turn soft. Yeah, they turn soft.
James, you were shaking your head there when I mentioned the maybe an energy issue or tiredness issue. Do you think it's purely mentality when it comes, or just purely not being good enough as to why we just have these, I guess we just drop off into nothingness, basically?
Yeah, listen, there may be a tiredness issue. Like when Klopp first came to Liverpool, it took them a couple of seasons to settle in and get used to playing a pressing style. But I don't think that's the solo or main reason why we tend to drop off. I think, like Marcel said, it's massively confidence. It's fragile. It's just a massive mentality issue. We hired a sports psychologist, Sasha Lenz, right?
Yeah.
Anyone seen a difference since he came in? Anyone? No. Anyone
No
seen a
joke.
difference since the set piece coach came in? Anyone?
There was
From the
two new
start of the
set pieces.
coach.
Yeah,
There was
yeah, I
two-
did. Yeah, short
Every
corners.
every quarter was short tonight. They didn't even trust themselves to put a cross in. And talking to like psychologists, you would say they've got a mental block when it comes to it now because they can't put a cross in. They get a corner, they shit themselves. They're like, oh my god, I got to do a corner. Okay, go short, and it just even that didn't work as well.
It's crazy, mate. It's such a confidence and mentality issue. Like I just look at it, and like Marcel said, where are your leaders? You'd think Ronaldo, multi-Ballon d'Or Champions League winner. You'd think Rafael Varane, multi-Champions League winner. You think David De Gea, Premier League winner. You can go back and list like numerous winners across our squad, but when it comes to it, they just don't fight. When everything's going well and everything's a bed of roses, it's absolutely fine. And I'll compare it to like a boxing fight, right? It's like your person that's on the offensive. Like Pacquiao first round against Mayweather, right? On the offensive, Mayweather tags him. As soon as he tags him, as soon as he catches him, feels his power, they're like, whoa. It's like we attack. As soon as anything comes back at us, we can't deal with it. We panic, and then we just retreat and we stop. And it's like, it's such a mentality problem. Our confidence is so fragile. I link it back to like the Villa game. We're 2-0 up, right? As soon as they scored that goal, did anyone think it was ending anything other than a draw or a defeat? Anyone?
Exactly.
Because I definitely didn't. I was 100% sure that we weren't winning that game, and I was just waiting for that goal to come in. Whereas I used to believe, we used to be a team under Ollie. We were second half FC, right? We'd concede and then we'd come back and win. And now it's the opposite. We're starting off well, and I'm just waiting for something to go wrong. And I hate being that person that's waiting for something to go wrong because I'm always positive. But when it's happening again and again, every single week, there's only so long we can be confident, Marcel. Only so long.
You're right, man.
And also as well, if we as fans are thinking that, then the players are. They know each other and they know themselves better than even we do. So I think you're right when it comes to that. Ray Diaz says maybe they're tired because they're training past 5 p.m. Very true. And it's dark. Maybe that's part of the problem too. Cam, this is an interesting quote from Ralph Rangnick after the game when it comes to sort of the tactics we were playing or not playing second half. He said, quote, in the second half, we were playing tiki-taka football in our own half and not direct enough. We had their counter-attack, but gave the ball away too easily in their box. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think Marcel mentioned it earlier. We had Bruno at left back and Pogba playing right back half the time. And that takes out your options through the middle, so you can't then play forward. And it's basically impossible to do anything. And if your players are that deep on the edge of your own box, it's going to be tough to get out of your own half, and you're not going to see the options that are further forward. It's just frustrating. It's the number of times. I think first, it's so frustrating because that first half was. I think obviously, given the disappointing second half, we're going to be irritated. But for me, that first half was so good. Right up until maybe 40 minutes, it was pretty much the perfect half of football. We didn't give them anything at all. Every single player played well. Every player was playing the same on the same wavelength, doing the exact same things, reacting the exact same way when we lost the ball, the exact same way to every turnover. We knew when to counterattack, when to just control the ball, just move it slowly, get Burnley back in their shape. It was so good, and then just the way it all shifted second half, it was ridiculous. And the problem, I think, at the moment is that because they're mentally, I think you can see that when there's a tough time, the players stop trusting each other. That's why Bruno comes deep and dropped into the left back role. That's why Pogba drops back into the right back role. That's why all of a sudden Maguire for the goal decides he's got to be right next to 5 meters away from Rafael Varane. When realistically, Varane defended pretty well the entire game. He doesn't need to be that close. And that's when the mistakes start creeping in. That's when the bad decision making starts creeping in. And that affects the structure as a team. Second half, most of the time, you couldn't tell me what sort of formation we were playing. We had no one in midfield most of the second half. It was Bruno was either really high or really wide, and Pogba was doing exactly the same to try and get on the ball. Dalot and Shaw didn't know where they were supposed to be. McTominay was sort of left covering a massive space by himself. It didn't make any sense. And it's almost like Ranick's got to do everything in baby steps. He's told them how they're supposed to play. They've got that down. They've got the reaction now. When we lose the ball, they react quickly. I think a lot of the time, they got the decision right whether to go and dive in and try and win it back or to just sit off and react, win it back a few seconds later. But now it's the next step is getting mentally tougher. And then the next step in terms of on the pitch is probably working out how to play from back to front. Because a lot of the time, again, we couldn't build up. Couldn't move the ball from defence to attack. Took us too long. It was too slow. There weren't really passing options. Players weren't making the right runs. But I guess it's just baby steps. We talk about Pep and Klopp. Look at how long they've been there now. I think every single player at City and Liverpool, they make a new signing. They might not even play for 2 or 3 months till they know exactly what they're supposed to do. And I think United were a long way off that because, I mean, Rangnick's been in post for, 2 months? So it's going to take a long time for him to do his thing. And hopefully in the summer, Erik ten Hag comes in, takes some time to do his thing. But the important bit for Ralph Rangnick now is getting the players playing the way he wants to play, but mentally making sure that when things don't go to plan, when things aren't going the way that they should be, everyone's in the same boat, everyone's on the same page, trusting each other. And it's frustrating because when you see players behind you like Harry Maguire making mistakes, as a midfielder, you're going to be thinking, well, hang on, if I stay high here, I'm not going to get the ball. He's going to give it away. Scott McTominay is not going to pass me the ball forward when he's in that sort of frame of mind, when he's worried about Maguire behind him. Luke Shaw, when he can't be bothered, when he's taking 20 minutes to get every throw in and back in play. As a midfielder, you are going to get frustrated. Bruno, we know Bruno gets frustrated as it is. Like we spent so long telling him or just getting annoyed at him pressing by himself. We know he's going to roam all over the pitch. They've got to trust each other, and that is going to be Sasha Lenz, Ralph Rangnick, whoever's trying to make them do that. Good luck, but that's the next step, really.
How do they improve their mentality then, DJ? Or how does Ralph Rangnick improve his players' mentality? Obviously, he brought in that sports psychologist. Whether or not that's going to pay dividends, we don't know. But I mean, is it to the point then, like kind of what, I mean, I guess this follows on what Cam was saying, but there's only so much Ralph can do, you know, when it comes to once you step over the line, the players do have to take some responsibility themselves. And like Marcel was saying, play as a team, or if you do get knocked down, you know, get back up, you know, that's how it goes. How does Ralph try and implement that kind of, I don't know, comeback sort of spirit into them?
Well, I just believe that Ralph just needs to sort of, you know, collar his the psychologist and get the psychologist working a little bit harder. You know, obviously these psychological issues when it comes to sport and even just real in normal life, you know, it does take a while. So nothing's really going to happen overnight. But I do think that, you know, to counteract that feeling of, you know, if stuff starts going wrong, have a bit of fight, man. Just have a bit of fight. Have a bit of pride in the badge, you know. Like I see it sometimes from Bruno, and I saw it tonight with Sancho, you know, like he did a marvelous bit of skill on the left-hand side. I think he megged the guy twice or whatever. He did some madness, and then he was like to the crowd, like, yeah, let's go. Like a bit more of that, and that needs to be infectious because and Cam's 100% right. You see sometimes when the chips are down at United, especially when we're playing, the teams seem very hesitant to pass to certain players when stuff's going bad. So for example, if Shaw's like facing back to goal and he's got 2 players pressuring him, you can almost tell he's like, I don't really want to give it to you, Harry, because I know what you're like. I can read his mind. Like he's like, and he'll do it, and then it starts literally capitulating all over the place. People start flying into tackles and they shouldn't, and it just literally crumbles. So I think it's about character. I think that going back to Maguire, you want your captain to, if all else fails, you want your captain to be the one that's vocal with the team. Heads up, boys, let's go again. Let's go. It's all well saying that when we've scored a goal and they're huddled in the corner by our fans. It's easy to say it then. But we need characters to start stepping up. And if they're not stepping up now, then you know, we're going to be in for a shocker at the end of the season. We might not even get top 4. We need people to stand up and be counted. The mental aspect, let's just hope that Ralph and his coaches can work on it, because we're clear as fans. We're clearly seeing this pattern of behaviour. It's a pattern of behaviour that we can't seem to break at the moment.
Guys, be sure to smash a like on the like button. Be sure to subscribe bottom right-hand corner as well. I've got nearly 600 people watching, so be sure to smash a like on the like button. Marcel, Cristiano Ronaldo started on the bench today, and it's Cristiano Ronaldo, so obviously people talk about it, even though some would say it's not even that much of a big deal. He's 37. He can't play every single game, but people are going to talk about it. Before the game, when he was asked, why is Cristiano Ronaldo on the bench, Ralph Rangnick basically said, because I need my striker to do a lot of running, a lot of sprinting, a lot of second balls need to be chased down. Did you see Cavani do that? And what's your sort of perspective in general on Ronaldo being on the bench?
He missed the sitter when we played at OT. Should have scored. He's missed against Middlesbrough. Should have scored plenty of goals. He's not in good goal-scoring form. So I think he should have been on bench anyway. Maybe even in the Middlesbrough game, he shouldn't have started. So that's that. Cavani, on the other hand, played poorly, and I really thought I could trust him to lead the line. and play a focal point.
You're picking up Cavani on Twitter. I saw.
Yeah,
I saw it.
Yeah. So I really believed in him. I really believed that he would play the focal point 9 role. But I think they're 34 and 37, respectively. Like they're not going to be able to do what is required, I think, in the Premier League level. Ronaldo's just come from the Italian league, and you've got Ibrahimovic over there doing his thing. But these players are not maybe built for that relentless. Every 3 days it's a game. They can't do that. So I don't know. Ronaldo had to be benched. I think Van Gaal put Rashford in the 9 when he first came onto the scene, and he was scoring in every single game that he started. And he looked like he was going to become a 70, 80 million pound striker. Then, Mourinho breaks his confidence. Other managers come in. Oli doesn't give him much games in the 9 role. So maybe Rashford I feel like wants to be a 9 anyway. But I don't know. Ronaldo needed to be benched. Cavani didn't play well, and it was just poor. It was just really poor.
Cal, I can see your face. Can Rashford be a 9?
I just don't think he's got the desire to get on the end of the ball in the 6-yard box, for one, and two, intelligence-wise, I don't see it. I don't see the movement. I think if he wanted to be a 9, we would be playing a system with inside forwards. We'd be playing with a system with wingers, because Rashford's good enough if he wanted to get on the end of balls, but he doesn't. He wants to be out wide. He wants to be in one-on-one battles with his fullback. So I just don't see him ever being able to be a 9. I think what Rashford's got to do now at this point really is accept what he is. He's got to accept that he's not the most intelligent, creative player in the team. He's got to accept that he can't just keep running into crowds of players, and accept that his job, the most useful thing he can do for the team, is make constant runs in behind. Constantly be a target, constantly be moving the defensive line backwards. Just be that guy to hit. Let Sancho do the dribbling work. Let Sancho cut inside, create from deep. Let Bruno and Pogba do that. Rashford himself, your job is facilitate everyone else. Move the defensive line back so that Ronaldo's got space if he wants to drop in, or Cavani's got space if he wants to drop in. That's his job. I think Rashford needs to sort of relax a bit and stop trying to get the ball to feet all the time.
Yeah.
Accept his limitations and do what he does. Like Raheem Sterling for City, he knows what he is now. He's not constantly getting the ball to feet 100 times a game. He just does exactly what Guardiola wants him to do. That's what Rashford's got to do. Accept what he is. He's quick. He can run in behind. He's got a lot of running power. Do that and let everyone else do their thing, and that will make the team better for me.
Don't you think you can do that from the 9 though, Cam? Like a bit like a Jamie Vardy-esque, and work into that space behind the defensive line. Like under Van Gaal, he scored a lot of goals from that 9 area. He was a number 9 under Van Gaal, and I guess he was coming into the team and he wants to prove that he's got quality. But I just feel like maybe Rashford, and he's got the physical presence as well. He can maybe emulate a Vardy's game, and Vardy scores plenty of goals in the Premier League.
Potentially, but I think Vardy's timing of runs is so much better than Rashford's is right now. So I think that's the biggest thing he's got. But for me, I think the other thing with Rashford playing through the middle is that if he plays through the middle, I think against a lot of teams like Burnley today, where they sit back, he's not going to get touches, he's not going to get time, and eventually he'll stop making the runs. At least when he's on the right, he's got that chance of someone looking up, hitting that switch of play. Even if the defence are sitting really deep, sitting quite narrow in a tight block that's hard to break down, that switch is on. So have enough to feed on throughout the game to make him keep making the runs, keep giving it a go, and hopefully trying to put a ball in. But I think, we could give him a go as a 9 because, I mean...
I think he's soft, guys, though, man. I think Rashford's soft. He hasn't got that nasty streak in him that you need as a centre-forward in the Premier League when you've got 6-foot-plus centre-backs literally breathing down your neck. Like, it's all fun, having the pace and the flair but games like today, if you're a centre forward, you need to roll up your sleeves and really get in the mud and really sort of mix up with the big boys. And I think Rashford's just soft. I think he wants to be the luxury player on the wing, doing all the fancy skills and that. Again, I just think he plays like a child, and that's just what I feel about the player. I've seen enough. Flex always talks about sample size. I've seen enough now over a full season and another season, of him doing the same shit. So. Yeah, and what time is it? It's night, so I can swear. Yeah, so yeah, he's doing the same shit. Yeah,
he slows DJ cursing. Oof.
He does slow the game down. He does slow the game down. Rashford does slow the game down, and Bruno does play the long pass to him all the time. Bruno loves looking for Rash, but I just don't feel like he's a good enough winger because he slows the game down. He's not a Ryan Giggs where you're going to touch it out and put the cross in. He's not obsessed with looking for that cross, and a Man United winger should be. So I just don't like to see him as the inside forward. Why don't you utilize your pace as the 9? I like a body.
This is what I've been saying for a while. Like if we got offered 70, 80 million for Rashford, take it. He's not good enough for this. He's not good enough to do
I was saying the other day, right? Yeah, like if you look at someone like Harvey Barnes, yeah, traditional winger, gets out of his feet, bang, straight in the box.
Yep.
No messing about. He's got a bit of pace. He's not obviously as technically skillful as Rashford. He's got a bit of a trick in his game, but he does what a winger does: gets the ball down and gets to the byline and whips it in, and that's it.
He's got the nasty streak, like you were saying.
Yeah, we need that, man. Can't be soft.
Part of
If you
Rashford's form, I
listen,
think, it's frustrating.
if you listen close enough, you can probably hear KG crying somewhere. If it's very faint, it's very faint.
Yeah, I
but
think
carry
so.
on, Cam.
Part of the frustrating thing with Rashford for me is that I think he takes such a long backlift and there's no disguising any of his shots. So by the time he's controlled the ball and there's two defenders right in front of him, everyone in that stadium knows exactly what's coming. That ball is getting struck straight into both of those defenders and straight out for a throw or whatever it is. Everyone knows what's coming. There's no finesse, there's no subtlety. You all know what's going to happen, and it's just so easy to read. It's really frustrating.
JK says the same captain mentality when he was celebrating a goal for England like he won the World Cup. Maguire as captain is embarrassing. We got robbed. Remember, he wasn't making a statement with that. He was just a celebration, guys.
Yeah,
that's what he said, right? Just celebration. We trying to silence your critics there? No,
not at all.
I don't know what you're talking about. No. To wrap up the Ronaldo conversation, James, I saw a stat today now it's come to fruition, but with Ronaldo not scoring in his last 5 games, this is the longest drought he's been on in 12 years since 2010. Which, to be honest, is unbelievable. We're talking about a guy for 12 years has scored once every 5 games. Those numbers are incredible. But was this, I guess you would call it drop off, was it to be expected when it comes to Ronaldo at Manchester United? I mean, yes, he's no normal human, but he is still 37, I suppose.
I think it depends on how you look at it, because the narrative has changed a little bit. I think if we were to be told that Ronaldo would fail for a certain period of time at Manchester United, it would be because we didn't create enough chances for Ronaldo. That would be the narrative. Like, we don't create loads of chances. Ronaldo's a goal scorer. He scored over 800 goals in his career. If you give him the chances, he'll score. Over these last 5 games, he's had the chances. So the whole viewpoint has changed. It's not like he's not had chances. He's missed the target with a penalty. He's had 2 pretty decent headers tonight. He had an overhead kick the other day in the game. Like, he's had chances, right? And he seems to be snatching at things. Just seems to be rushing, not the same composure in front of goal that he usually has. So was it inevitable? No, I don't think his age has anything to do with it, to be honest. Like, it has something to do with the way that he plays and maybe his energy levels throughout the game. But the guy's in ridiculous shape. The guy's an absolute athlete and he's an absolute consummate professional. So I don't really buy into the premise that it was inevitable and it was always going to happen. I just think, unfortunately, maybe he's human after all. Maybe he is suffering with low confidence like the rest of people. I mean, he wouldn't be the first to admit it, but, you know, I've never seen him miss the target with a penalty in my life. Like, I've never seen that. That was unbelievable. Like, we're sitting in the Stretford end looking because he's hitting it into the east stand, and I'm like, well, the least he's going to do is hit the target, and I see it hit like the sideboards, and I'm like, what's gone on? Like, how has he done that?
And it can't be nerves.
Like, I'm not really.
Can't be nerves.
Yeah, it's crazy. On the just quickly on the Rashford thing as well. Like, I don't personally think he's a striker. I don't think he's comparable to Vardy because of, well, we hear like football intelligence being chucked around a lot, but like DJ says, plays a bit like a kid. I think Vardy's a very intelligent footballer. Intelligent. If the Rashford striker thing was going to work, wouldn't you think if he played with Rooney, played with Ibrahimovic, played with Cavani, played with Ronaldo, been managed by Ollie, do you not think he'd be a better finisher by now? Be a more intelligent football player? I would look at that and think, an intelligent person learns from those people. Like, if you're surrounded by people that are experts in your field, you take on what they say and you implement it in your game. Like, he's always been known as a put your foot through the ball finisher. You go before the game, you watch him in the warm-up doing shots. Every single one's blasted and he misses the target about 8 out of 10 times from 12 yards. It's unbelievable. And he's not changed the way he's finished in 5 years, despite having probably the best poacher and finisher we've had at the club in like the last 20 years outside Van Nistelrooy as a coach. So I think the writing's on the wall for him as a 9. And I think if he wants a future at Manchester United, which he should have, it's going to be as a rotational player out wide, I think.
Alj says, guys, how is Scott getting a free pass on that goal? He got turned and skinned just as badly as Maguire. You don't get turned that easy in the middle. DJ, what did you think of McTominay's involvement in that goal? What do you think of McTominay overall?
See, this is the thing. I said it. I've said it in the last few months, Owen. And guys, like I said, McTominay excels in the physical games. That's him. That's his bread and butter. He likes the tussle. You know, he's a big guy. He gets about the pitch, and I think those are like these type of games play well into kind of his skill set and his qualities. I thought he was playing very well first half. I thought he was literally intercepting. He was getting in the mix. He was carrying the ball. All the things that you like to see from Scott McTominay. I do think for the goal, he could have done a lot better. But to be fair, up until that point, he was having a really good game. And you can see from when Ralph's come in, you know, Ralph kind of criticised him a little bit about, you know, not playing the ball forward enough. And you can see now he's trying to actively incorporate that into his game time and time again. He's not the most technical player. He's not going to hit, you know, those Paul Scholes-esque passes or thread the ball through the eye of a needle. But you can see he is trying. And for me, as a fan of someone or of Manchester United, I should say, I have to commend that. Like, I can see him putting the effort in, and he tries. He does. In terms of the goal, yeah, could have done a lot better than what he was doing. But overall, it was a decent performance from him.
Marcel, Paul Pogba marked his return to the Premier League with a goal this evening, second game in a row that he started. I think Ralph Rangnick said before the game that if Fred hadn't tested positive for COVID, maybe he wouldn't have started, considering the proximity of the game on Friday, rushing him back. How did you think Pogba played overall?
Very good, driving with the ball. But he faded away in the second half, like most players in our team, and was ghost in second half as well. Not confident on picking up the ball enough in areas and in difficult situations. But again, in that first half, you know, big contribution with the goal, and overall big contribution as well, putting his body about. And I think he's another player that's important in the physical games. And I think in that combination of that midfield three against the lesser teams, I can definitely agree with the likes of DJ and James when they would say in the bigger games, I think you've got to go with that, maybe Scott and Fred. But in the lesser games where you've got to have the impetus attack, front forward football, I really do enjoy that Scott, Bruno and the Pogba combination. It looks really good. It looks like it offers a lot of options, a lot of creativity. And I really enjoyed Pogba's performance. Again, it tailed off in the second half, but then he had a good against the Middlesbrough game, drove with the ball well, you know, drawing fouls with that, driving, getting the legs out and running. It's good, man. I enjoyed that performance from him today.
Yeah, because you've been saying for a while that you want to see Pogba and Bruno as 2-8s, right? So, yeah, exactly. United Arena's in the chat saying, just dropping in to say, I hope you guys are well, especially my brother Cam. Have fun analysing this one. LOL, like the video, guys. Yes, as United Arena says, like the video. Got nearly 600 people watching, so smash a like on the like button and appreciate United Arena for the contribution. What did you make of the trio, James, of Pogba, Bruno and McTominay? Is that, you know, if we're looking at positives coming out of the game, is that a positive going forward, that that's a trio that does look like they can actually do something?
Yeah, 100%, mate. I'm coming around to Marcel's way of thinking that it can definitely work in a few games. I really like them, to be honest. I think I've said numerous times that I think Scott isn't really a 6, but at the end of the day, he's learning the role and he's actually doing it better than he has all season. I think he looks pretty good in that 6 at the moment, considering he's not played it single-handedly for most of the season. Pogba was superb, I thought, first half, absolutely superb. I think what sums his performance up is when he's running like 15, 20 yards and he's literally got a midfielder like jumping on his back, trying to pull him down, and he's still running and still staying on his feet. And it's like, Pogba is probably the best combination of strength and skill in a footballer that I've seen in a long time. He's almost impossible to get off the ball when he's on it. Like, almost impossible. So he's very good. It's great to have two creative players in our team in the centre of the park. We've created loads of chances in the last 2 games, and in certain games throughout the season, it does look like the answer is Scott, Bruno and Pogba. The problem I've got is, one, against the bigger teams, I don't think it works. Like we said, you play it against City, Liverpool, they just run through your midfield. They play 5 in midfield and swamp you, and you're in trouble. And 2, is Pogba really renewing in the summer? There's your second issue. We're getting excited over a player that's walking out the door for free. Yeah, that's a big issue, and that comes down to, again, mismanagement. Transfer strategy from the club is awful, but Paul Pogba is going to go for free in the summer, and I heard reports the other day that we're looking at signing 1 midfielder. Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly. Zephyr says, ha ha ha, Banter FC. Saka over Sancho, no cap. You got to get your kick somehow, haven't you? Cam, so that midfield trio that we were talking about, McTominay, Bruno, Pogba, obviously, like as James touched on there, maybe not for the big games, that wouldn't be where you would go, or the section that you would go with, but is that something that we can look at ideally for games against the lower teams, even though it didn't actually lead to the victory today? But is it something towards the end of the season, certainly we can look towards, even if Pogba's looking like he's not going to stick around?
Yeah, I think it's something we can look forward to as well. I think it's something that produced potentially quite exciting football. And I think in the first half, what we saw as well, I keep coming back to it, but first half, I think we saw a really exciting balance of sort of having a front five, whether it's the front three and the 2 8s that join in to make a front five, or whether it's the fullbacks that join in. There seemed to be a good understanding that when it was Shaw or Dalot that actually got forward, Pogba or Bruno on that side would sit a little bit deeper, or McTominay would come across. There's always cover. So I think the understanding is starting to gel, which is quite nice. I do think in the middle, if we are looking to play it in more games, then we might need to look at getting someone else into the midfield, whether it's inverting fullbacks like Guardiola does, or potentially getting one of Pogba or Bruno to always be sitting back if the other one goes a little bit further forward, especially if both fullbacks do push on. I think it's something that's going to need tweaking, but I think it is something definitely can work in games against lower teams where we're expected to have a lot of possession and not concede too many transitions. It works fine. As we saw in the first half, if every time we lose the ball, it either goes off immediately for a goal kick, corner or throw-in, or we immediately react, win it back, press straight away, then it's not going to be too big a problem because if you win it quickly on the edge of their box, you've not got Pogba and Bruno having to sprint back 50 yards to get the team back in shape. So it can work, but only in games where we're expected to have a lot of possession. So you don't do that against Man City. And again, like it's like with Marcus Rashford. If you're going to play him as a 9, you possibly against Man City you could do that because his pace through the middle could be quite useful. But you're not going to do that against Burnley because he's not going to do anything in the 6-yard box against their centre back. So it's just it's about getting the right team for the game. But I think it's something that can work. It's just the issue is, as James said, Paul Pogba's off in the summer, and there's nothing we can do about it.
No, doesn't look like it. DJ, when I was watching the game on BT earlier, I saw that little box come up in like the left-hand corner, and it said, "Oh, Champions League starts again in a couple of weeks' time," or something like that. I shuddered. I thought, "Oh God," I forgot about that. I forgot. I went, "Oh no!" And I know like Atletico lost to Barca at the weekend, but would you see then McTominay, Pogba, and Bruno possibly starting against Atletico, or is that one of those games which you go, "No, we need something a bit more robust"?
I
Atletico might be the team that sits back. You know what I mean? So you might need something a bit creative.
I think the difference is that, you know, that midfield of Pogba, Bruno and McTominay, it's playing slightly different to how we would have usually imagined it, because Bruno's playing a lot deeper in the 3 now. He's playing a lot deeper. He's almost with them on the halfway line. So potentially, and that's if Rangnick's going to get the tactics right, which I do trust him to do. But I mean, it's a tough one. Because if we go robust, we lose a bit of creativity in the middle of the park. Say, for example, say if it is Fred and McTominay, you will lose Pogba. Do you know what I mean? You will lose Pogba, and I think Pogba in the Champions League, I think he's made for it. I think that type of football is made for it. So. Me personally, I'll do the gamble, man. I think I'll just put Pogba on. It's more of a threat. As Marcel was saying, you know, like, or I think it was James, you know, like he's running through the middle of the park and he's just got people hanging off of him. Like, I love that part of his game. Kind of reminds me of Moussa Dembele, who retired, I think today or yesterday or whenever it was. But I think Pogba should start against Atletico, and that midfield should stay the same.
Right, finally, guys, then. Top 4 hopes took a massive hit this evening. I keep asking this at the end of every stream, so apologies, viewers, if it's very repetitive. But circumstances change after every game. So top 4, yes or no, are we going to get it? Marcel, start with you.
Yes, and we're going to beat Southampton on the weekend.
Look at that. Optimism, positivity. I like it. James, what do you think?
I'm always going to say yes until it's mathematically impossible, mate. So yes from me.
Look at this optimistic top row. I'm enjoying it. Cam, can you keep the optimism going?
Yeah, 100%. I think we've got, out of the teams in the top 4 race, bar Spurs, I think we've actually, even including Spurs, I think we've got the most match winners in our squad. The most players that, if things do get tough, will make a difference. Obviously, it didn't happen tonight, didn't happen on Friday, but we keep the faith. We keep believing. Hopefully, it will happen a bit more for the rest of the season. But I think we are going in the right direction. So yeah, I think we will get top 4.
DJ.
Don't think we'll get top 4. I did say that.
You ruined it.
Okay.
You had to bloody ruin it.
Hey, listen,
Champions
guys. I
League.
said this. I'm tired of putting my faith in these guys, man. They literally let me down all the time. When I think, think about it, guys. We're the only side, right, in the Prem that are gonna struggle against the bottom team that is fighting relegation. Right? The bottom team is. Yeah, I just don't trust them. I don't trust them. I love Man United, but I just don't trust them. Don't have to trust them. I love them, but I just don't trust them. So yeah, I just don't think we've got enough. Yeah, we've got good players in that, but I just don't think we've got enough steam, intensity to get to that 4th spot. I don't.
It's funny because it's a question of consistency, and the people that are all going for 4th, none of them consistent. So it is really hard to pick it out. I still think that we've just got just enough quality that will get us over the line. I'm with everyone that we're not consistent enough, and we can't beat bottom of the league, and it's a massive problem. But I also look at Arsenal and I'm going, they're doing the same thing. I'm looking at Spurs and I'm going, they're doing the same thing. West Ham, there'll be an issue of consistency. They'll beat the top teams at home and then they'll lose a weird game like against Leeds or something like that. So everyone's inconsistent, but I think it will probably be quality that will edge it. But that's me trying to be optimistic at 11 o'clock at night. Anyway, guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Where can we all follow you on your socials, Marcel?
At Marcel 10 or 9 or 10 or 11.
Yeah, I saw that it changed. It changed.
Yeah,
what was it? It was like Morbius or something like that. 10
Yeah,
or 11. I like that.
Not 10 or 11.
James, where can they follow you?
Yeah, I tried to tag him the other day and went to type in Morpheus. I was like, "Where's he gone?" Has he unfollowed me? Unbelievable.
No.
Yeah, it's at @Dixon_88.
Perfect. And Cam?
At StatManCam on everything.
Look at that. Smooth.
Professional.
Smooth,
DJ.
Professional.
DJ Talks _ and everything.
Perfect, guys. And you can also follow United View at United View TV on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, because we're all about the youth, guys. Yeah, all about the youth on TikTok as well. So we post on there too. Anyway, guys, look, we're out of here and we'll speak to you again very soon. Peace.